Now, let's deal with the issue of atheism and secularism in regards to pedophilia. The common atheist saying or belief, what they say publicly, is that all religion is child abuse, all religion causes pedophilia, and this is where it all comes from. And they portray themselves as being absolutely blameless in any of this. Well, that isn't true. The fact is that there have been abuses by atheists. So, if you want me to mention the main draw card, well, we need not go any further than NAMBLA, the North American Man-Boy Love Association, which was founded by David Forstad, who was the main coordinator for NAMBLA and more or less made into the organisation that it is today. And he is an atheist. We can look at his associates, and I'll be putting links to these people. I'll probably do it on my blog, so you can look at that later. But you've got people who either identify as atheists or identify as Buddhists. They're involved in NAMBLA, and when you look at Buddhism, which is an atheist religion, one only has to look at Thailand with you've got the ladyboy prostitutes, and you also have child prostitutes. The police in Thailand do strive to, arrest the pedophiles and all that, but you've got an atheist culture which has more or less allowed it to occur. Because with atheism, it's a case of what's true for you is true for you, what's true for me is true for me. Moral relativism. An atheist cannot say that pedophilia is definitely wrong. They might think in terms of themselves, but for a greater community, so to say, they cannot make that judgment. It's not a case of something is moral or immoral, it's just amoral. So while there may be atheists who are absolutely opposed to pedophilia, it's not uniform because there is no definite value judgment. Generally atheists say, there's laws of biology and that decides what is right and what is wrong. Oh, well, it's not even a moral judgment. It's what is physically right and what is physically improper. They can argue, well, if a penis of an adult male can fit into the vagina of a 10-year-old girl, then it's not actually wrong, it's natural. But, looking at the things that have occurred with the likes of the former communist bloc, and the histories where you have atheists in positions of power committing these sorts of things. If you look at the Soviet Union, they had, this was about, say 1950. There was a guy called Lavrent Beria. Now, Lavrent Beria was a sexual predator, a high-ranking member of the government, and who was known for raping teenage girls, and with some excavations of some of the places he resided in, they were finding bones, skeletons of girls who were obviously pre-teens. So he had raped the teenagers, and as for the pre-teens, he would rape them, and of course he didn't want anyone to find out, so he'd kill them. And people will say, oh, but that's communism. So that's not atheism, but communism demands that all members who wish to participate in communism are atheists. And, you say pedophile priests, yes, but you also have pedophile atheists. So if you want to fling accusations about things that happened in the past, then you have to take in the atheists as well. We also have the likes of Richard Dawkins. Now, he came up with some story, or it wasn't actually a sob story. He said when he was a schoolboy, a teacher, one of his teachers, put his hand down his pants, and Richard Dawkins says, mild pedophilia is not an issue. It's, I don't know, you can't, amoral, it's neither right, it's not wrong. So with the moral relativism, which comes with atheism, there cannot be a value judgment onto a pedophilia act. You've got people from, say, the likes of left-wing parties, the Greens, and so on, who are pushing to lower the age of consent. And this is not something that is uniform amongst all parties, or not yet anyway. So we'll look at this picture. In that case, we're looking at atheism, secularism, and what I call apostasy. When you look at the sort of people such as politicians, they will apply various morals to everyone else apart from themselves. Atheists always say, the Bible says you have to be nice to me. And I say, why? The Bible says. I say, are you obliged to be nice to me? Fuck you, no. It's your book, so you have to be nice to me. I said, well, I'm not obliged to be nice to you. But you've got politicians who proclaim, especially around election time, they're a good Christian, they're a good Muslim, they're a good Jew. And yet, when they're in government, will entertain the thought of things like lowering the age of consent, appointing judges who are known for their lenient sentences, especially in relation to pedophilia. myself, I believe the reason why we have these lenient judges giving out Santa Claus punishments to pedophiles is because they want to set a precedent, a legal case for people they know who could be caught. They could have relatives who are pedophiles, they could have friends who are pedophiles, they could have, business associates who are pedophiles who will eventually get caught because of their behaviour. And so they can say, in a court case, oh, but Justice blah blah said, and you can't put me in jail. And we are seeing this. There's some ridiculous sentences which are, becoming legal to the point where there is no point in arresting pedophiles because they'll just get a slap on the wrist and that's that. And, looking at pedophile activists, a lot of them are in fact atheists. Now, if they're not pedophiles but defending pedophilia, then you've got to ask, what's the end game for these people? And in a lot of cases, it just seems, people say, oh, it's just some nut. But these nut jobs are getting very organised. I know on YouTube there's a guy called The Amazing Atheist, and I've read some of his quotes, and again I will link these, where he seems to think that pedophilia is not really that big an issue because it cannot be judged morally. So, sometimes you just try to explain these sorts of people, why they have a sort of condoning of it, or I can only put it down to there's some political capital or there's some financial capital for them to personally make. These people seem to speak on behalf of pedophiles, civil libertarians and other bleeding asses. And they do this with the expectation that none of these things will affect them. And when you look at society, you've got parents working 2 jobs or 3 jobs to pay mortgages which will never be paid. And if there's no parents at home, then the kids are on the street, and you've got to ask, who benefits from this? Pedophiles, regardless of what they call themselves or what ideologies they supposedly belong to today or what religions, are using these things because they can attack society through various angles, and it does seem to be paying off. You've got police who try their hardest to catch these people, especially child pornographers, and yet they can catch these people, and these people walk on a technicality, or they get a good behaviour bond, or they get some sort of holiday camp punishment. So atheists are not clean skins in regard to this. And that's something you can't allow people to bullshit you about this. Saying religion is the sole cause of pedophilia is simply not true. It might provide an avenue for pedophiles in which to act, but you've got community organisations like the Boy Scouts who also targets of pedophiles. So, secularism provides just a bigger playground for pedophiles, as does religion, as does atheism, as does politics, all areas. So I just wanted to say that. Yeah.